Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we augment our reality and roam the earth hunting for monsters like Sandshrew, Weedle, and Psyduck, along with the answer to the vital question, how in the name of Pikachu did Pokémon Go become a global craze?
Speaking Human.
Welcome to Speaking Human, where we simplify the world of marketing for humans. I'm Shad Conley, and I don't want to brag, but there's a Charizard in my backyard.
That sounds really inappropriate.
That's pretty dirty talk, right?
Super dirty. And I'm Patrick Jebber, and Hold on a second. There's a Jigglypuff standing outside the door. I'll be back in a second. I'm back. I caught him.
Did you get it?
I caught the Jigglypuff.
Captured. It's all the funnier because I don't know what any of these things are. On today's episode, we're talking about the mobile app that has changed the way people look at the world, Pokémon Go. And I know, obviously you're using it right now, Patrick. This is an app that has changed your life in a lot of ways, I think.
Changed my life for the better, for sure.
Well, yeah, that's a given, right?
I have purpose now in life.
I will say that I don't know if I've ever been so thrown inside of something within the span of since this app came out. I don't know that I've ever heard about something as much as I've heard about Pokémon Go.
It's definitely everywhere you go.
It's one of those things that's just, takes over the world, it feels like. It's on you turn on the news, they're talking about it. You walk down the street, you see somebody playing it. It's just, within such a short span of time, really just taken over. I mean, it's like, reminds me of the Ice Bucket Challenge in that way, but it's moving at a far quicker pace.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. I mean, the Ice Bucket Challenge at least had, a build-up point. It didn't explode within just a few short days, Yeah,
it's almost like they bought the internet because I can't go on social media. I can't look at any news sites. This is all I hear about. It's Pokemon Go memes nonstop. It's what I dream of. Pokemon Go memes now.
I'm sorry for you, actually, if you're dreaming about Pokemon Go.
Well, they're more like nightmares, but
well, they are monsters, so that makes sense.
That's a good point. So we'll take a minute. Do you want to tell people what Pokemon Go is exactly?
Yeah, Pokemon Go is a mobile app, mobile game, if you will, that feeds on the basic human need to search for and ultimately catch wild creatures by throwing a ball at them. I know.
That is a basic human need.
It's a basic human need. Desire. It's a basic human desire, I guess. It has become insanely popular, insanely viral. Released on July 5th. On the 11th, which is literally 6 days after that, reports that the app had been downloaded 7.5 million times puts it on a trajectory which it's going to outpace Twitter users if it continues at that rate.
Yeah, and I think I heard it's the most popular gaming app of all time.
Yeah, in the US, because it hadn't been even released in the UK or anywhere else yet.
Yeah, the reason the international rollout, there's places that still don't have this yet because their servers were so unprepared, supposedly, for the amount of users and how much it's getting used that they're doing a slower international rollout so they can make sure they can handle having all those people on there.
Nobody could ever really anticipate those kinds of things, you know what I mean? You can hope for it.
Yeah, I think I heard the company behind it say, we thought it would be successful. We didn't think it would be quite this successful. So that blindsided them like it blindsided everybody else. You're right. It's one of those things you just can't quite see coming.
Yeah. But Pokemon is literally the translation of pocket monsters. What are the odds that we're talking about it on a Monsters Unlimited podcast? So that's a little bit about Pokemon Go.
Yeah, so now you know. So tell me, let's talk a minute about our personal experience with this. Are you playing Pokemon Go? What are your feelings on Pokemon Go? What's your relationship to Pokemon? Give me your whole story, man.
It's funny how viral things tend to blow up. I read some articles about Pokemon Go right about the time that it came out. I mean, it was a very short span of time, like we talked about. And then within like a day or two, it was everywhere, everywhere, and everywhere. So originally, I downloaded the app just to see what the fuss was all about. And yes, Shad, I said fuss because I'm 80 years old today. Then you start talking to people on how everybody's doing it, and everybody's going out and they're getting Pokemon and catching them, and interacting with other people while they're doing it. And it's definitely crazy. How about you?
I have not downloaded it. I have not actually played it. I'm just getting so beaten over the head with it right now. I'm at kind of the stage I get with things when they get super popular, where my body is just forcibly rejecting it, trying to resist. And I know it's futile in the end, but for now, it's like I'm still trying to fight the virus.
You're an outcast. We
And
should outcast you.
I am an outcast. I want to be an outcast. You know what I mean? It's one of these things. I don't know why. I don't know why this is just who I am. This is what I do with things. When things become like a thing that everybody's just jumping on and like piling on top of, and they're like, "Are you doing it? Are you playing this?" It makes me not want to do it so much. It's crazy.
I have a tendency to feel that way too, but because of what we do, I feel like it's kind of my duty to see what all the hubbub's about.
Yeah. And obviously we're talking about it on this show. I've been reading tons of things about it. I'm soaking it in from a distance, though. I haven't got the step. And I know it's probably going to happen at some point, but I haven't got the step. I'm actually playing it. I don't know if you feel the same way. Our generation, we're a little before Pokemon in general was a big thing.
Yeah.
I think that probably came the generation after it. We're kind of the end of X. This is probably why that has a relationship with the Pokemon brand.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Not that that makes a huge difference now,
Yeah.
where you have like 65-year-old women who are like, "What's this Pokemon Go all about?"
Yeah. I was sitting next to a lady recently who she's like, "I haven't talked this much to my 20-year-old in like 3 years. We're just, going out catching Pokemon together." I'm like, "Really?" And she was all excited to be playing Pokemon. So it's cool,
There's no doubt about it. It's a thing, right? It's a thing that's just kind of sweeping the nation, and it's universal, and it's part of the conversation. It's why we're talking about it today. Whenever they do those like look back on the year type things, is going to be like one of the big curiosities of 2016 was the sudden and wild popularity of Pokemon Go.
Yeah, the year in review, we'll definitely be talking about Pokemon Go, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be in our awesome awards. So, with that as a backdrop, you want to dive into what makes Pokemon Go so unique and interesting? What has fed this massive success? What do you think, Patrick? How did this happen?
I have a few things I think are partially to blame.
Good way of putting it.
I'll say probably the first thing is that this app was very successful because of the history of the app maker. Niantic also created another augmented reality app called Ingress.
That game uses a lot of the same type of technology as Pokemon Go, right?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. They took that knowledge that they had built up managing the Ingress platform and used it to benefit this new game.
Augmented reality, basically what you're talking about is the game uses the environment around you as part of the game.
Yeah.
Just to give people an idea of what that is.
And the thing that they've done so well, they created Pokemon Go as a casual game. There's no time limits. There's no, you have to get a certain score. You're basically just catching these Pokemon. And that's what makes this game so successful, is that you can go in and do as little as you want or as much as you want and still have a pretty good experience and be able to talk to other people about it, and they know what you're talking about. So it creates this commonality between players, even if they're really hardcore players or they're not. You know what I mean?
I think that's a good point you make, too. The flexibility that's built into it, you can kind of be at different levels, or you can be into Pokemon at different points, and you can jump into this. There's kind of that universal capability there where, as you said before, like someone who's 65 can play it on this very casual basis, whereas maybe a younger person who's super into Pokemon can play it on a totally different level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they're thinking about things in a completely different way, but it has that spectrum built in there. But the thing I put down that what really has made this make that leap from, popular gaming app to something bigger is augmented reality, like you mentioned. Augmented reality is this is its moment, It's kind of like what Nintendo Wii did back in 2007, 2008, around that time period, where it was just this technology that was finally packaged in a way that made it just bounce to that next level. That's kind of what I think is happening with augmented reality. I mean, it's been around. This technology's been here. People have been integrating it in ways. You mentioned the Ingress app. That obviously took it a little further along, but this is kind of the breakthrough moment for augmented reality, I think.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And, if you don't know what augmented reality is, Google it.
I think we could say that for a lot of things on this show. Be like, if you don't know what Pokemon Go is, Google it. I think this is a good time to kind of break up the conversation for a second to give a shout out to our sponsor.
Today's episode is sponsored by Monsters Unlimited, a creative agency with a business brain. Monsters offers a full range of creative marketing services, from branding to web development to something particularly relevant to the topic of our show today, mobile app development. So if you're looking to develop a mobile app for your business or brand, think Monsters. Visit thinkmonsters.com to learn about Monsters and how these creative beasts can help you take your business to the next level.
We're back now with something that may explain any odd behavior you've seen on the streets recently. The smash hit mobile game app Pokémon Go has only been out for a few days, but it's already got millions following their smartphones to the most random places, and police fear possibly into harm's way. NBC's Jolene Kent has more.
That was Lester Holt talking about Pokemon Go on NBC Nightly News, Shad. This is a great segue into one of the areas that I thought we would talk about today and why Pokemon Go has become such a huge sensation is the media.
I've heard about it.
I don't think we could deny the media has played a huge part in the continued success of this game. There's a strange psychological effect that the media hype has on pop culture things. You know what I mean? People have this strange desire to be in the know. They want to be doing the things that everyone else is doing. And as soon as, especially primetime news picks something up, people are like, what are we talking about right now? What's happening? And they hyped it even more so than social media did. So I think the media definitely played a huge part in the success of Pokemon Go. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting the way that happens. It's almost like the chicken or the egg, right? So this becomes popular, the media jumps on it, this becomes more popular, the media keeps going with it, more people start using it. It's just like this cycle that keeps going, and it's what makes something grow into a kind of sensation like this is. Like you talked about the psychology of people, you kind of want to be doing what everybody else is doing. The media almost exists in that same way, right? It's like, well, everybody else is reporting on it, we better report on it. And then, well, we need to find a new angle on it. So then you start to get more of these negative stories. I saw something about a lady who was playing Pokemon Go and it led to the discovery of a dead body. People talking about the dangers of playing Pokemon Go while driving. There was the controversy over you could find Pokemon at the Holocaust Museum, and they didn't really like that there. So it's just become this whole thing where everybody's jumping on top of this. The media is like finding a way to, get in on the act, including this podcast you're listening to right now. But it's one of those, for the game, as far as it goes, it's a good thing, a very good thing. It's a sign of exposure that is, the reporting has already, within this short time span, gone so deep on this that they had to turn to the negative. It's like this just cycle of the popularity with Pokemon Go is so sped up in every possible way.
Yeah. I think at the beginning, it was sort of like a mystery that the news talking about it, it was this perfect storm of media coverage on something that was relatively unknown. And then suddenly it just kind of blew up. And now you've got virality.
Yeah, and all the exposure also creates the air that everybody is doing this. Even if it's got 8 million downloads, it's not all the US population. But the way the news stories make it out, it's like everybody right now is walking around doing this. There's nobody outside who's not playing this thing.
Yeah, the craze that swept the nation. Yeah, they definitely dramatize and make it seem much bigger most of the time than it actually is, for sure.
Yeah. Let me talk about another aspect of this, of why this has become such a big thing. And that's, it'll seem pretty obvious, but it's crucial here. And that is Pokemon, the Pokemon brand, right? You were talking about the app they developed using a lot of this technology before, which had, like you said, a cult following, has become somewhat popular, but not on this level. So what took it to that next level? Pokemon did. Pokemon is kind of wildly, sneaky, crazy popular. Anybody who was around in the 90s remembers this craze where it was at its peak, where I think there were like Game Boy games, then it went into trading cards, and the trading cards became really good, and then there were comics and a TV show, and, it was just like Pokemon fever, and it was one of those things like Digipets or Troll Dolls, one of those things that just becomes this wildly popular thing that if you're outside a certain age group, you're like, I do not understand this at all. I don't get it, But what's crazy about Pokemon is it's retained a lot of that popularity. Not a lot of people are talking about Troll Dolls anymore, but a lot of people, even before this, were still very into Pokemon. So it's a strong brand that appeals, I think, cross-generationally, too, to either if you grew up with it or if you're, younger person right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's built on that franchise that millennials for sure know and love, and that's a big part of it. And I think the game makers realized that they could capitalize on the success of the franchise for sure, because the original game had 31.4 million games purchased in that time frame, right, when it first came out. And then it steadily declined over the years. And they've had games every few years that they've released, and they've just steadily declined a little bit. But I would compare it to Magic, the card game. It's got this cult following that people still play it. People still love it.
Yeah, and we mentioned the company that developed the app. Nintendo, I believe, owns Pokemon, so they've made out huge on this, the popularity of Pokemon Go.
Oh, yeah.
I saw something that the value of Nintendo skyrocketed to like $9 billion just based on what's happened with Pokemon Go.
Yeah, and I don't know if that will last, to be honest with you.
Sell high.
Yeah, sell it. Sell it. So, yeah, anyway, it's definitely a franchise that is successful and has longevity, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, without a doubt. Another aspect of this, I think, that's been big that you already mentioned that I just underlined was the crazy thing about Pokemon Go is it took gaming outside and it made it, like a social thing. Mm-hmm. This is a kind of environment-based game that involves movement and exploration and can lead to face-to-face interactions. I mean, it's kind of something crazy for the gaming world. It's the answer to, every parent who's ever been like, stop playing video games and go outside.
Yeah.
Which is just a crazy thing that everybody's gaming, but they're outside, walking around, moving around, socializing while doing it.
Yeah, that plays a huge part. Great timing. It is one of those things. I mean, could you imagine if they would have launched this in the winter?
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if they took that into account.
Oh, I mean, I would imagine they had to. But, they never, like I said, they never anticipated this level of success. But, I mean, if you're going to have a game where people roam around and look for Pokemon, you better do it in a nice time of year.
Are you saying that Pokemon are not winter creatures?
Yeah. Well, I don't think people are winter creatures. There'd actually be different news stories about people like freezing to death because they couldn't stop catching Pokemon outside.
Yeah, that's the next news cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the, differentiators. I think that's one of the universal appeal things. Like you can go with your kids outside and walk around and kind of explore different places you haven't seen before. There's these other kind of driving factors that are getting people to use it. You could say one of the benefits is exercise. You could say one of the benefits is you're socializing and meeting new people. It's doing a lot of things actually that games don't typically do. And the fact that it's doing it outside is just, I think it's what's made it so interesting to the media and what's made it so interesting to non-gaming audiences at the same time.
Yeah, well, I mean, the media has, even pulled up stories of, oh, this is getting people to exercise and it's getting people to socialize together outside. You didn't even know a person and you're talking to them and all these things. I mean, just even in our own little town, you drive around and you see people walking down the street and you're like, what are all these people doing outside? Like, not that we don't have a lot of people outside to begin with, but it's unusual to see people walking in herds. You know what I mean by that? Like people, like groups of people walking together, and you could see that they're clearly on their phones doing this. And we were driving around yesterday, and my wife was like, those people are playing Pokemon Go. Those people are playing Pokemon Go. I mean, and there was like 4 or 5 instances of that. It's weird.
They're on a mission. They're all on a mission. Everyone in the world must capture Pokemon and do it now. So we'll see in, a few months, the news stories. It's like, millions addicted, can't stop walking outside. It's freezing. Hypothermia. People are losing fingers.
Forgetting to put on their clothes when they go out in below zero weather to catch Pokemon.
And that's probably a good point to wrap up and jump into our top takeaways.
Yeah, so my top takeaway for companies is this today. Media. The media. And by media, I mean social and even primetime media. Whatever. You can use media to drive interest in your product and get people talking. Of course, that has its pros and cons, but don't discount the media. For example, you could call up a local TV news station and give them a story. If it's good, you never know. You could be diving into a pool of money with Pikachu.
Which who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah. So what's your top takeaway, Shad?
My top takeaway from this episode is companies out there, get it while it's hot. How can you take advantage of the Pokemon Go trend in your marketing? This is something now, of course, where the people go, the businesses go. So this is something you're seeing happen where restaurants and bars and, other public places or business are calling out the Pokemon that are around them, or if they're a Pokemon gym or a Pokestop, and using that as a way to bring people in or create engagement with these younger audiences. We're seeing a lot more stories like this now. Like I mentioned, restaurants and bars, retailers, you're seeing some nonprofits getting in on it. So how can you do it? And what can you offer? How can you use it? Maybe if you're a restaurant, you have a Pokemon happy hour, or you promote the different Pokemon that can be found around your building or in your area. Discounts for different Pokemon teams. If you collect this Pokemon, we'll give you this. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, especially, your physical businesses if you want to draw people in there. It's a great tool to use, and now is the time to do it. This is a marketing-friendly app. I think in the future I'm sure they're going to have sponsored locations where you can pay money, and become a Pokestop, or they'll pour Pokemon into your location, something like that. I don't know how exactly it'll work, but mark my words, it's coming. So the sooner the better with this. Like anything else, the more businesses that jump on the bandwagon, the lesser the impact's going to be. So if you're the type of business that has a way to use this right now, I'd say go for it.
Yeah. And I would just tack onto that, you could even put up a sign that says Pokemon for paying customers only. Yeah.
So you got to buy at least one drink.
You got to buy at least one drink. Well, I did see a news story where I don't even know what the business was, but they were so excited because they actually had one of the rarest Pokemons were in their store. So they had just a flood of people coming in there, and the news story was covering them. So then they, in turn, it was this sort of spiral for them. Maybe they will do what you said, though, and have a paid platform where you get rare Pokemon installed in your business location.
Yeah, how interesting would that be? It was like the more you pay, the more rare it is.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see that happen and if and how it would work. It's a great time to be alive.
It's a great time to be a Pokemon trainer.
It's a great time to be somebody who owns stock in Pokemon.
Yeah. So we hope we helped you get a little better idea of what Pokemon Go is. That's it for today's episode. You can find current and past episodes of the podcast at speakinghuman.com. You can also listen and subscribe to Speaking Human on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and Google Play.
Jeez, that's a lot of places. Email us with your thoughts on Pokemon Go, or tell us, all the things we were wrong about, we said about Pokemon on this episode, or any questions or comments. Feedback@thinkmonsters.com. That's feedback@thinkmonsters.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Speaking Human. Catch you then, Pikachu.
Speaking Human.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test, to train them is my cause. I will travel across the land, searching far and wide. Each Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. It's you and me. I know it's my destiny.
As long as you catch them in the process.
Yeah, you got to capture them so you can fight them by throwing balls at them.
Yeah.
Don't you capture them so that you can fight them later or something?
Yeah. Yeah. You catch them in the little balls so that you can fight other people's Pokemons. And in the process, you build up their powers.
It's kind of sick in a way.
Yeah.
huh?
Like I said, you're kidnapping these poor monsters to do your bidding.
Yeah, these poor, mostly friendly looking monsters.
Yeah. I mean, some of them they look like little jerks, which maybe.
Well, I mean, those ones deserve it.
Yeah. All monsters. I guess that's why they call them monsters, right? So people don't feel so bad about kidnapping them, taking them from their home.
Making them fight others.
It's a little sick and twisted when you really think about it.
Well, when you put it that way. Well, that's what you do. You grab them all up, you stick them in your pocket, take them home, make them fight other creatures.
You will fight, and if they don't, you kill them.
You're a good trainer.
Like, you will do what I say you're gonna do, and if you don't, that's it.
You have you go into a room in somebody's house. They have a punching bag there, and there's 10 different Pokemon training in there. They're jumping rope. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up. Come on, we got a big one coming up.
We got a big match. We got a big match, and you got to be on your game.
Don't worry, I'm gonna go find more of you.
I'm gonna go kidnap more of your friends.
Yeah, you'll have more to hang out with once I capture more of you and force you into these fights.
You're just gonna have a room filled with Pokemon.
The person dies. They find all these Pokemon. They're starving in a room.
People are going to jail because they're not taking care of their Pokemon.
You capture them, you own them.
It's Pokemon endangerment. You got 2 years in prison. How could you let Pikachu wither away?
Pikachu is help me.
Actually, Pikachu would never say that because anyone who's a Pokemon fan knows Pokemon can only say their name.
Oh, that's right.
Pikachu. Pikachu.
That's one of the things That's one of the things I remember from the 90s was just hearing Pikachu. I think it's what turned me on Pokemon in the first place.
Yeah. It's what didn't turn me on to Pokemon in the first place.
I didn't mean to turn me on to Pokemon. I think I understand it now. They're so annoying saying their name over and over that I'm all right, let's capture them and make them fight each other.
These damn things are so annoying. Let's make them fight each other to the death.
I don't usually agree with that, but in this case, it's fine. They wouldn't say their names all the time. Fine. We'll give them some rights.
It's like, Pikachu.
Clear.
That's why you keep them in those little balls.
Clearly you can't feel. I'm going to make you fight another creature. Do they fight to the death, or they just get beat up a little bit and then you can roll them back out there?
No, I think they murder each other. Oh, Jesus. Somebody who really follows Pokemon is really going to be mad at us.
Yeah, they're going to be like,
you guys,
it's not like that. They want us to train them.
They want us to train them. They want us to capture them and make them fight. I mean, that's what
They need us.
That's what they were born to do.